So when I'm doing these bits that are in the bottom of the shocker, what I do is I get the glow plug, woody glow plug tool, and it has like a hex bit on for the nuts, and then it's got a circular bit there which just seems to be the perfect size, and I just use that just to press everything in and make sure it's like flush. I just need to check see if there's any burrs. I think the type of plastic that they use here, just you never get any burrs on it, so I'm expecting that just to fit straight in. So that, and then just pop the cap on there like that. So that's all. So as I said in my previous video, on these bits here where it's got a little rubber insert in there, I just pop a little bit of oil on the rubber just to help make sure it doesn't, prevent it doesn't tear. So just pop a little bit of oil on there. Then there's a ball joint to go in this cup here at the top, and whenever I'm putting a ball joint into a plastic, if you look at the plastic, you'll see that normally when it's quite a significant size ball joint like this one, there's normally a bigger side to the plastic than the other. So here, looking at this one, I can just see ever so slightly on this that this side is smaller than this side. It's actually got a little mark on the back of the plastic. I don't know if that's the same on all of them. Yeah, so the side, there's a little mark on the back, and that will be the back of it. So that means that the ball joint wants to go in like that. So this is the back of the shock. So that wants to go there towards the back. So I want my tool like this. That's it, in perfect. It's free, moving freely, so that will work fine in the car. These tools are really good because before I had this tool, you would have just been using like a pair of grips or putting it in a vise or something like that, and it's just really awkward. Whereas this actually has like a little bit that it sits into, and then it means that your plastic don't get like all them horrible marks on it. Again, that ball joint's fine. I'm going to put the piston inside the body of the the shock now, and when I do that, I always pop a bit of oil on the end where the thread is, just like that. The one that the shock is going to be built of. In this one, I'm just going to use the kit oil in both the front and the back, and just put it through. I just do that because it goes through those little rubber grommets in there. And I just want to make sure that the thread doesn't damage the little rubber grommet. So I've got oil on there now, so I'm just going to clean the end of that off with some brake cleaner like that. So that's one of the fronts done. Right, so in the book, it doesn't give you a measurement here from the body to the plastic joint. So what I've done is I've set all of the front and the rears, because the rears have a longer collar, all to 13.5mm, and I measured it from the body to the plastic arm. And that will do as a starting point. And basically all I want to achieve with the length of the shocker is, these ones are quite good actually, because when you fully compress them, the piston doesn't pop out the top of the body. The amount of time I've built shockers to the length that they've set in there, press them all the way through, and then the piston sticks out the top, and I just think, well, how does that work? Because it's got to hit the diaphragm then, which has got to affect the functionality of them. So these are quite good. But what I'm aiming to achieve with the shocker length is just to have them at the point so that when the maximum droop is achieved on the car, that it's not preventing it from reaching that. And then as long as it's achieving that, so like the maximum droop that I'll have on the rear, I think is like 7, and then the maximum on the front is like -1. So as long as I can achieve that on the front and the rear, then the piston length is fine. Been building shockers for years, and I've got to say that I think for everybody I've ever spoken to, it's the worst bit about a car assembly. You're just so glad that you only have to do it once in the life of a car. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the oil, and all I do is I just fill the cup up, and I normally just take it so that the oil is just got a slight dip from the top, but the oil has come all the way to the top of the shocker. So as I'm pressing it up, it's now gone the other way, and it's got like a cone outside of the shocker. And then I just give it a lot of really nice quick pushes up and down to get as many air bubbles in it as I possibly can, which of course sounds like a terrible thing, but I just rather get them all into it now, make sure that, and I can see it's absolutely full of air bubbles in there. And then all I do is just pop it inside one of the wheels, one of the 8th rear wheels, and just leave it there. And just do exactly the same. Unfortunately, I haven't got one of the smart hoodie air vacuums which will push all the air bubbles out of the shocks. But if Mr. Hoodie wants to send me one of them, I'll definitely receive that with open arms. I'd love one of them, but they're quite expensive. So again, just the oil's just a little dip from it, which effectively should be too much oil, because once the diaphragm's in there, it will be sitting inside the top of this shock body. And I'll leave them for about an hour, and then I'll come back, check to make sure all the air's gone, and then I'll do the final assembly. Right, so now we're going to finish off these shockers. First thing to do is just check to make sure that there's no air in any of these shockers. The other thing that I want is this tool here. So I've just got this 3mm hoodie tool here, and you'll see why I use this in a minute. Right, so I've checked this, there's no air in it. Like I say, the oil's got like a convex shape, I think it is, because it's lower in the middle than what it is on the edges. And then I've noticed here on these 2018 shockers, they've got a bleed hole, and I'm 99.9% certain that the 2018 car didn't have a bleed hole. So I'm hoping that I can construct this the way that I used to with I had to change the way that I constructed them. But, so I'm hoping that I can construct these the same way as what I do with a Mugen. So I'm literally just going to put it straight on. Just start the cap going onto the thread, and then as you can see there'll be like a little bit of oil that's started to come out. So now that oil started to come out, and I also put it all in line because I'm a bit OCD like that, so the hole is in line with the nut so when it's been held together. And then I just get the piston and I push it up with that, so that's creating a consistent gap for like all my shockers now, because that's going to help determine the rebound that we're going to get from the shocker. So I just hold that into position like that, and then now I just continue tightening up the shock as tight as I can get it, with everything still in line. Let go, remove that, let it go, it should spring back out. Just check to see what the rebound looks like, and you just want it real slow, so you want it to fully extend, but just really, really slowly. It's perfect. It's perfect every time when I do it like that. So I'll just give it a quick, so I make the action quick like that, and just hold it up to my ear, just make sure that there's no air in it. You can see there's no air in that, it's perfect. So I'm just going to give that a quick spray with some brake finish. It's got oil over it. And this is my other tool that I could never survive in model car racing without now. It's just some magic gum. Just picks up all the dirt. So if I put it on here, it will just pick up all that oil, leave me with a nice clean shocker. So we've got the hole in line with the nut, so that looks nice. I'm not too fussed about this gap here at the moment. We know this gap's correct. We just need the ball joint putting in that cup there, so I can pop this on. So put the spring on. I always put the numbers to the bottom so I can read them. So this is a 5.6 going on the back. We pretty much used the kit springs at every track last year, so they're pretty good. Right, move on to the next one. And that is it. All 4 shockers done. And I've probably just maintained them on a meeting by meeting basis. All of my drivers have always reported a noticeable benefit of shockers being refreshed. So if you wanted to do it more often at a meeting, I think it's definitely a beneficial thing to do, but that should get you through a meeting. It should be fine. They'll probably last longer, but just over time I will, just from the years that I've been doing it, I will refresh it after each meeting. I have to put these in. But that's it for shockers. I hope that was useful. the shockers onto the car. Something that I normally do that I forgot to do in the shocker video is that I normally put something on the ones from the right hand side of the car, just so that when I'm stripping it track side, if like I've had to adjust this shocker because of the tweak of the car, then I want to make sure that this is the one that goes back on this side of the car. So I always put like some markings on just around the collar, so I know that this one's from the right hand side. That technique that I use there, I used to use all over the car, so like on all the plastics that were from like the right hand side of the car, anything that was to do with the right hand side of the car, I used to mark with the Dremel and just put some little circular holes on it, so that I knew when I stripped it all down and rebuilt it that everything was going back, so that like the drive shafts, I would have marked the drive shafts for the right hand side ones. I'm not so meticulous these days, but I do the shockers. So I'm putting the shockers on before I put the engine in, just because it's easier. Look, you can put your wrench straight through. This is when your ball-ended 2mm is an absolute lifesaver in 8th racing. Just helps to get into these awkward angles. So those shockers are on now, and when I was putting them on, they all seemed fine with the amount of droop that's currently on the car, but the car hasn't been set up. So when I do the setup video, that's when we'll check the length of the shocks to make sure that everything's okay. Might as well put the engine in. Ball-ended 2.5mm to be able to do these screws. Just enables you to get past the cylinder head. A lot of cylinder heads will have cutouts for the driver to get past, but I still find that it's got a bit of an angle on it, so 100% this is the best way. Right, so I've tightened these screws up. And the next thing to do will be to tighten these screws up underneath here. So what I do is I tend to hold the engine by the clutch bell like that, because then that means that the clutch bell is in its engaged position, so that it's flush now. It's flush now with the 2-speed. So I can feel there. A lot of people have like different methodologies for doing this. Now, the important thing to remember is that this isn't perfectly circular because it's been just forged in a factory. So you can't be guaranteed that every point on it is the same as every other point. But some people will put like a sheet of paper in between there, and then push it up tight and then pull the paper out, and then that's a really good way of doing it if you're not used to it. But just because I've been setting these for years, I can just tell by feel and just by sound. That's got way too much play in it at the moment. You can see how much my finger is moving, just way too much. And what I tend to do is I get a screwdriver here on this, and just, because it's just the minute final touches, just lever these screws over a little bit. So I'm leaving them tight and just lever them over a little bit. That's it. Perfect. Lock that up now. So you can hopefully see there, just my fingers hardly moving now compared to what it was before. You just hear it sounds right. That's rocking evenly to that one, so I know that it's square. Looks perfect. And then for the final tighten on these screws, I was always taught by my father at this point that you go diagonally. So if I tighten this screw up here, I go to this screw now, and then I'll go from that screw to that one, and then over to that one. So, just check it again now, everything's tight, it's fine. Just double check these. Same again, goes from left